Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zollo. We are down to our last look back at Fantasy Football 2023. It is part 4, covering the top 8 teams from the 2022 season, because obviously we go into the 2023 season with this. And we say that, and there are three non-playoff teams, 2 of them inside the bottom 5 of the worst teams this year. Granted, we did save the Bears for later in the season, but we will talk about the current Super Bowl contenders of the 49ers and the Chiefs. Those will be sprinkled in there with some other big playoff team names that we will go through, look back and see. Of course, giving you some coaching news and some reaction to what just happened on Sunday to put the Chiefs and the 49ers in the Super Bowl. Let's get into it. Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zollo. Once again, Ryan's bitching out, old man syndrome. He's on the IR. Just me and Josh in a new setting as well. And you look more tan. I don't know if that's just the pasty white background behind you, but
yeah, that probably has something to do with it.
Definitely the skin complexion,
or the orange light that's blasting on my face.
We'll see. Would also, I mean, yeah, I look like Casper the Ghost on the right side of the screen right now. Comparative. I was like, there's no way this man gets Florida sun. Like that's not his vibe.
I mean, I do work at a beach bar, so there's that.
Yeah, but like you're a manager now. What do you even really do when you think about it, right? You're there telling people what to do. You're just out here. Yeah, see, South. I think he's spray tanning as well. 100%. I was like, oh my god, this is weird. Just go back, click off of this for 30 seconds. Go back, look at Josh last week, and look at him now. Tell me he didn't go to the.
Is that better? Tan. Oh wow, geez, that's terrible.
No, please God, leave it on. Please leave it on. No, that made it way worse. Oh boy. All right, today we are covering the Giants, Cowboys, Bills, Bengals, Niners, Bears, Eagles, and Chiefs in that order. Yes, I did say we're kicking off with the Giants, and these are the final 8 teams from the 2022 season. That's a tough realization, especially for Giants fans. First things first, we'll go through coaching news, then we'll go to the NFL playoffs, and we'll dive right into the Giants. Dave Canales leaves Tampa, becomes the head coach of the Panthers. When you do well with Geno Smith one year and then do well with Baker the next, that's a pretty good prime coaching candidate right there, if I do say so myself.
I love the fact they gave him a 6-year deal, too. So hopefully, because I know they ultimately gave
Matt Rule an 8-year deal.
A 6-year deal.
Was it? I thought it was 8. Ooh.
No.
Okay, either one. They gave him a long deal.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, when you're handing out a 6-year deal, all right, we know this is going to be a struggle. Patience is on the horizon. David Tepper has been anything but patient as the Carolina Panthers owner. But, hopefully this is, Canales has the opportunity to work with a young quarterback who struggled last year. There's a lot of rebuilding on this team that needs to get done. I don't know, kind of excited. We'll see how it plays out.
It's definitely good news for Bryce Young dynasty managers because you needed somebody in there to do something with that.
I mean, at the end of the day, nothing's going to happen without an offensive line.
No, God, no. But, I mean, you can get around a battle line by, quick passes, but it also doesn't help that they have no weapons. And no first-round pick to help Bryce Young with those weapons. So, the DC, Raheem Morris, leaves the Rams, becomes the head coach of the Falcons. He was the interim head coach in 2020. He has a 35% win percentage as an NFL head coach, and he was the assistant head coach during the 28-3 Super Bowl for the Atlanta Falcons. Yes, that Raheem Morris is now the coach of the Falcons. Look, I'm just throwing it out there.
This is what I will say.
Just throwing it out there.
Raheem Morris. This is what I will say because I know you shit on him because of past record, blah, blah, blah. He was insanely young when he was thrust into being the head coach of the Bucs. I think he was 33 years old when he took that job. So coaches can get better. And he spent a long time as a coordinator. He's come up with some really good defenses. Yes, he's had some really good players on those defenses as well. But we talked about this all season, Joe. Falcons have a really good defense.
They do.
At the end of the day,
I called it.
This team needs a quarterback, right?
They do. Yes.
Dave Canales, Panthers, they need weapons. They need an offensive line. These teams are flawed. That's why they're looking for a head coach. Players, they like Raheem Morris. I think
they do.
You're talking about a very different type of head coach now versus whatever it was, 10 plus years ago when he was the Bucs head coach.
You're looking at a player rah-rah guy, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, but after what Arthur Smith has been the last 3 years in Atlanta, this is definitely a big culture and vibe change, and he's well-loved in Atlanta. The former creative director for them, who's a Full Sail grad, now works for the Indiana Pacers. He said he loved Raheem Morris when Morris was there in Atlanta, and he got to interact with him. So very much loved by Arthur Blank himself, the entire staff, players, all that. So Mike McDonald leave Baltimore to become the head coach of the Seahawks, now the youngest head coach in the NFL at 36. Okay.
I love the fact they went from the oldest head coach to now the youngest head coach. At least they're making positive strides there, right?
It's like Baltimore had a great defense this season. Awesome. Your defensive game plan in the AFC Championship was single cover Travis Kelce with a rookie. That was the defensive game plan.
Well, he was spending too much time getting ready for interviews.
I don't know. I don't know. Head coaching candidates Ben Johnson and Bobby Slowick decided to stay with their respective teams. Smart guys. Honestly, smart. Yeah, very smart.
The same opportunities are going to be there next year. It's not.
And I also heard there were tweets going out that Ben Johnson was not the head coaching candidate people expected him to be. So I saw that from Schefter. I don't know how true that is, but
yeah, I mean, there's I've heard a lot of stuff going around when it comes to Ben Johnson, all the way from like demands, like contract demands, player personnel control, all these types of things. And it's like, dude, you've never even been a head coach. Like, what? Oh no, just chill, pump the brakes a little bit.
I agree. I'm not really sure. I think it's better for him and Slowick to stay in their respective spots.
Well, Slowick especially. I mean, 1 year as a play caller. That's it. Like, earn your stripes a little bit, take on a little bit more responsibility here and there every year. I think these guys that end up becoming coordinators for 1 year that jump right into being, the top dog and the head coach, that, there's a big learning curve. And I think sometimes that comes to backfire. And, you're looking at that basically the same way with Dave Canales. 1 year with the Bucs as the play caller, now jumping into being the top guy. We'll see how it plays out. But the one thing that I found really interesting with this coaching cycle, there's been a lot of defensive head coaching hires.
Which is very surprising.
Yeah, which it really has not been the trend probably over the past, I'd say 5 to 10 years, realistically. But Seattle bringing in a more defensive-minded guy, hardly surprising. Pete Carroll was always a defensive guy. Same thing with New England and Gerard Mayo from Bill Belichick. Both defensive
That was in
guys.
The contract. Don't even.
Yeah, exactly.
It was in the contract.
But, I mean, Atlanta going that way when they know that they have a lot of pieces on offense, but no quarterback. A little interesting there. Who was the other defensive guy that got hired that I'm completely blanking on?
I know there's another. I know you're blanking on it, but to me it just feels.
Oh, Pierce, obviously keeping the tag with Oakland.
Pierce, I think, earned his stripes. Sure. Raheem Morris feels safe. You know him, and I'm not saying he's a bad hire, but you're telling me that, like, I know they announced their coordinators. Is their offensive coordinator anybody sexy? Like, no. Go out and get the best offensive coordinator you can find. Josh McDaniels still doesn't have a job. Go out and get him and turn what are great weapons into an actual good offense. That's all. Like, just do that. Everyone hates it, and I'm not here to defend this man for a single second, but if you're Pittsburgh and you're pissing and whining that Arthur Smith is interviewing to be your OC, why don't you look at what he did with Derrick Henry? Because you have a same rough build in Najee Harris. Okay? You're telling me you don't want that guy to figure out Najee Harris? Yeah. I'm not comparing.
Well, I love all the tweets. Go buy Calvin Austin. Darnell Washington season.
Yes. Dude, George Pickens. What are we talking about? Deontay Johnson is irrelevant in that offense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't see him. He honestly, Deontay Johnson needs to get traded. But George Pickens, I don't know if he's going to last with Arthur Smith as the coordinator there. Just look at Drake London, right? They're going to ask him to go out and block, and he's going to have 3 target games half the season, and he's going to get pissy and why am I not getting the ball and blah 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 and all this stuff.
100%. Quick 30-second elevator analysis on the games. If you hold Kansas City to 17 points, you should win.
100%.
If you hold Kansas City to 17 points, you should win. John Harbaugh gets outcoached in the playoffs, and Todd Monken looked like he was calling an offense that was playing week 0 in college football.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about, the questionable game plan from Mike McDonald on defense. That was a very questionable game plan from Todd Monken on offense.
Oh, the offensive game plan was way worse.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing was the Ravens just played undisciplined football.
Yes.
A lot of stupid penalties. Obviously, the Zay Flowers fumble at the end zone, that was hurt. The backbreaker.
But you shouldn't have been in that situation because Zay did not need to spin the ball and look down on the guy after he also Zay, you didn't torch him. You were just open in zone coverage. You didn't beat the guy in coverage. So, yeah, very undisciplined, and I put a heavy amount of that on coaching. Unsportsmanlike conducts in pre-snap penalties are all coaching. 100%. So John Harbaugh did not have his team disciplined and ready. Dan Campbell, kick a fucking field goal. And everyone's flaming him for saying, why didn't you go for the tie or anything like that? How about when he was up and didn't kick the field goal when he had 24, it could have gone up to 27? How come we didn't do that? Because remember, if San Francisco had 27 at that point, he then would have been tied with them. Then he could have kicked the field goal again to go up to 30. Granted, the defense gave it up in the end. That's not all one thing. But if that does not scream, take the points, I don't know what does. If that doesn't scream, take the points, I don't know what does.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everybody is going through and questioning all of these calls simply because, you want to get the points, right? This is what Dan Campbell's done literally all season. It's worked sometimes, it hasn't worked sometimes. That's just the nature of going forward on 4th down. So, there was definitely, I think it was the second one where I was like, yeah, you definitely needed to take the points there.
Yes.
The first one was kind of, I'm fine with them going for it. But at the end of the day, when you give up, you're up 17 at halftime, and you didn't score again the rest of the game.
Correct.
At that point, going for it or not going for it on 4th down doesn't fucking matter.
It doesn't matter.
So
it doesn't matter.
They just got outplayed in the second half of that football game.
I don't disagree with that. It's still mind-boggling to me you don't at least try for the points. And I saw someone say if they converted, he'd be praised for it. No,
that's true.
You can hate the call even if he gets it. You can still. I say it all the time. If the Patriots go for it on 4th down and they make it, I say I fucking hate that they went for it there. I'm happy they made it. I disagree with the call. Both of those things can be the same. All right, moving into our looking back, we are heading into the New York Giants. My guys from the offseason, Josh. Honestly, you should have just stuck with Jalen Hyatt because Darren Waller wasn't any better. So Jalen Hyatt, wide receiver 98. He was there on a team.
Well, at the end of the day, no matter who you picked from this offense,
it didn't matter.
It was going to suck. Yeah, this was a terrible, terrible team.
Listen, we can all rest assured knowing that our guest, who we love, Miss Nikki, chose Paris Campbell.
Well, in fairness, she said it is Darren Waller, but I will go Paris Campbell to change it up a little.
I was trying to make the loss even worse because even with Darren Waller, it still would have been bad. So it's just funnier with Paris Campbell. My sleeper, is Isaiah Hodgins even employed by the team? Was he even there? My defense for him was he's wide receiver 72, and he's the number 1 wide receiver on the team. Very clearly, nobody was the wide receiver 1 on the team. The only thing that was uttered properly and correctly on the show was Bobby Okereke and Xavier McKinney for the IDPs. That was the only correct thing about this team. Okereke, stellar season, career high season. Same with Xavier McKinney. What didn't go wrong for the team? How about that? What didn't go wrong? Daniel Jones injured. Saquon injured. Fucking Tommy Cutlets was starting games. So, is there anything to say that like didn't go wrong with the team, or where did it all start? Where did it all begin?
I mean, well, where it started was they bet on a aging tight end with a history of hamstring problems, and he only played 12 games. That was the first.
That's a big
mistake,
one,
right?
That's a big one.
That's the big mistake. Offensive line was god awful.
Terrible.
They had no true number one wide receiver. I mean, their top guys had 79 and 78 targets. And one of them was Darius Slayton.
Dog.
Yeah, like, I mean, played well for the opportunities that he was given. And that's kind of been the story with Darius Slayton, right? It's always been, we're going to write him off.
He's a big play guy.
Somehow he rises to the top because he's, at this point, is the only healthy wide receiver they have every year.
I don't understand the disrespect with Darius Slayton. If he goes to a team with an actual quarterback and runs as the 3, he would be an extremely effective field stretcher. He's shown it in a shitty offense.
Yeah, 100%.
That he has nothing to do with this team and show that we're discussing here. But you also paid Daniel Jones. You locked yourself to Daniel Jones. You have to make the decision they're at 5, I believe, 5 or 4 in the draft. One of the two. Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought I looked.
I was going to say.
No, 4 is the Cardinals. They might be at 6. 5 is the Chargers. I believe 6 is the Giants because I saw Roma Dunze going to the Chargers and the kid from LSU, Malik Neighbors, going to the Giants in
at 6, yeah.
In Bucky Brooks' mock draft. So you either have to draft him a legit number 1 in Daniel Jones, or you have to address the offensive line. Joe Alt is probably going to be there, but you don't need a tackle. So,
Evan Neal had something to say about that.
But isn't Joe Alt a left?
Awful.
Isn't Joe Alt a left tackle, and that's where Andrew Thomas plays? Correct.
I mean, sure, but we see this all the time. Panay Sewell was a left tackle before they moved him to the right side because the Lions already had Taylor Decker. No,
very, very true. That's also a thing.
At a certain point, Evan Neal could probably slide in better at guard anyway. So if you draft a tackle, now you've created better bookends and, added to another strength by strengthening the interior because Evan Neal's a monster. The dude's huge. Very easily could play guard. And if he's not hacking it at tackle, move him inside and see if you can still get some level of ROI on your draft pick. And there was a lot of talk with Evan Neal coming out about, maybe him actually being better in the NFL as a guard. Yeah. So I don't think that would be the worst idea if they ended up going offensive line. But everybody has offensive skill players going in the top 6 at, basically for everybody, quarterback, wide receiver, because those are like just the best of the best this year. Those are the top position players. And a lot of these teams need weapons. I mean, everybody needs an offensive line. Let's be honest. Even the best offensive lines need quality offensive linemen. So you can always slot in an offensive lineman somewhere. The Giants are going to have to make a decision. Do they try to make a trade up to get one of these quarterbacks because Daniel Jones isn't the answer? Or do they say, look, we still believe in Daniel Jones, but we got to get this kid a weapon, or we need him to not. Yeah, we got to protect him. This team gave up 85 sacks.
Not good.
That is a stupid high number.
That's not good.
I would not want to bring back any of those 5 starting offensive linemen if they were part of giving up 85 sacks. Let's be honest. That is awful.
That's not good, Chief. I'm pulling up the free agency tracker to just see if there's guys they can get in free agency that could
literally the best of the best available at tackle. And there's really not. And you could talk like Jonah Jackson at guard with the Lions, like
Jason Kelce. No,
he's not leading.
No, he's not leaving. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at all these guys like Andrus Peat. He's 30. He'll be 31. Kevin Zeitler. He'll be 34. Connor Williams, the center. Like, there's no one out there that you're like, that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're gonna have to make a decision. And like I said, the earliest mock draft has Malik Neighbors from LSU going there. And well, LSU's had a pretty decent track record at the receiver position in recent drafts, especially in high rounds.
I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting with those top 6 teams, and really, I think teams 4 to 6 realistically, because as of right now, I think it's pretty easy call that the quarterbacks are going 1, 2, 3.
I would think so.
Because all 3 of those teams at the top need a quarterback.
We'll get to the Bears. I have a lot of thoughts on Caleb Williams. We'll get to the Bears. Moving on to the Cowboys. Josh, congratulations. You got the wide receiver 1. CeeDee Lamb. You got the wide receiver 1. Ryan, if you're watching / listening, you're an idiot. Tony Pollard, we told you. You're a dummy. We told you. RB14, we told you. RB23 in points per game as well. And our guest, Nikki, she said, I guess I'll pick one if I must. She is a Giants fan, folks, so obviously she was dreading this. But she went with Brandon Cooks, who, as a my guy, not great, not awful. The beginning of the year, you wanted to gouge your eyes out and punch yourself. But second half of the season, when Dallas figured out what offense was, he was pretty good. He was humming with the best of them. He was my sleeper. It's a miss. I mean, he ended up pretty much right where he was drafted. I was happy with him in the second half of the season. Very miserable with him in the first half. That's exactly how his season went. In my opinion, it was Micah Parsons, but it was a hit. It was so easy. That's not really a win. I mean, it's Micah Parsons. There was no real miss there. What went wrong with this team? Again, it's hard to say. From you knew the dog was going to eat. You knew CeeDee Lamb was maybe not the wide receiver 1.
I was going to say, I think that to me was the biggest surprise. But realistically, like when I look at like my projections, when I'm saying, all right, what went wrong? Tony Pollard's usage for starters was...
They used Dowdle a lot more than anticipated.
Correct. And then the target distribution wasn't as... I thought it would be a little bit more spread out. I still had CeeDee Lamb over 160 targets. So, you expected him to have a really good season. But, Brandon Cooks only had 80... What do you have? 81. I mean, Michael Gallup was non-existent. They definitely used the tight end a hell of a lot more than I anticipated. Jake Ferguson looks like the real deal there. But I mean, outside of that, this team basically did what we thought they would do. I mean, I wasn't the highest on Tony Pollard anyway, so I wasn't really expecting the top 5 season that a lot of people were projecting for him. But I also didn't think he would only be RB19 in points per game either. That to me was really disappointing.
RB23.
Oh, he was even worse than that. Okay, yeah.
He might have been
RB14
19
total in the season, but
yeah, he did not have he didn't have the season anybody expected him to have in the populace of media. I know there were more people, but we were definitely heavy on the train of Tony Pollard will not be as efficient as he was in previous years. And it showed up 100%. He still finished RB14, which you weren't drafting him there. You were drafting him in the top 8 of running backs. So it was a disappointment for you. If I told you my guy finished RB14, you wouldn't be pissed about it. But where he was drafted, you'd be, you're like, what the fuck?
Yep.
Overall, it took them a little bit to get going and to just realize, what do we say all the time? Oh, DJ Moore's open on every play. Oh, these guys are open on every play. Mike McCarthy literally said, okay, let's just throw to him on every play then. And by the end of the year, CD was just averaging 11 catches for 150 yards and a touchdown. And that's not an exaggeration. That was literally just what his average stat line was.
Yeah, I mean, on the season, he averaged almost 103 receiving yards per game.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
The man is disgusting.
It's a lock for 10 fantasy points a game.
The man is.
And that's not even counting the receptions or touchdowns.
The man is disgusting. Simply put, he is ridiculous. So
He was
they
also
rode
involved quite a bit in the run game too. I mean, 14 carries for
He did.
113 yards is really impressive.
He's electric with the ball in his hands, however you can get it to him. So I think the lesson to learn going into next year, and this is assuming, roughly same roster. Like, I can't imagine they're going to do much from an offensive standpoint with that roster. Maybe add a better big body running back to take some of the load off Pollard.
I think the wide receiver room might look a little different around CeeDee Lamb.
I would agree with that, but I don't think it affects CeeDee Lamb at all. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah. Like, I think Cooks is probably there, but I don't think Gallup is going to be the 3.
Yeah, if he is, they're going to probably cut him and save some money, renegotiate, because for what he's making, he's not putting up the numbers for it.
No. So from the standpoint of what we're worried about as fantasy managers, it doesn't really change what they're going to do next year. So they're going to ride their dog in CeeDee Lamb. Jake Ferguson's going to get his because he seems to be that safety net and that guy that can actually make some plays for them. Outside of that, I mean, you're praying to God Tony Pollard has a guy in front of him that can take the load off so that way he can be more efficient. That's really what you're hoping for. Outside of that, I mean, Dallas's offense is going to run through CeeDee Lamb, and any defense that plays them should just double him because that's the answer. If CeeDee's not humming and on not like destroying the opposing defense, it doesn't matter. There's no one else on that team that can push through, and Brandon Cooks is not that guy anymore. He's just not. He used to be that guy. He was pretty damn good in his prime, but he's not that guy anymore. So unless they find a guy like that, maybe in his mid to late 20s that can come in and play opposite CD and be legit and you have to worry about him, I mean, you should just stop CeeDee Lamb and you stop that whole offense. So,
yep. Yeah, I mean, there's Tony Pollard's a free agent. You're looking at potentially a new starting running back. There's going to be a lot of changes for Dallas incoming.
Definitely. Moving from one playoff loser to another playoff loser. I should have kept my caption of Buffa LLLO from last week, but here we are talking about the Buffalo Bills. My guys, Joshua Josh Allen, because he's your QB1, and, well, he finished quarterback 1. You also said you like James Cook. Not a bad season as well, RB12. That's who Liz Loza, the guest on the show, had as well. And Ryan said Khalil Shakir, Diggs is too easy. So Khalil Shakir, wide receiver 61. I mean, it started, he had pops in like squirts of time. It wasn't, I didn't really know what to say there. I can't think of the word that I want to use in the blurbs. I don't know. Squirts. That's what we're going with. Word of the day, squirts, folks. Khalil Shakir and Diggs is too easy. Diggs also, Ryan missed on Diggs. Ryan missed on the Diggs really is too easy. Khalil Shakir, he was better football-wise. Going into next year, there's a good chance he is heavily involved in this offense, just how it looked down the stretch with him. My sleeper is James Cook. It really doesn't feel like it. Let me tell you, it doesn't feel like a hit. It is. It doesn't feel like it.
He outplayed his ADP. So.
Oh, he outplayed his ADP aggressively, but it didn't feel like James Cook was the RB12.
Yeah, he only had 2 touchdowns. That's why.
Yeah, it's gross. And then my IDP was Matt Milano.
When you factor in receiving.
Yes. My IDP was Matt Milano. He was injured early on, just like the entire Buffalo Bills defense. So, RIP Matt Milano. He's not dead. He's just hurt. So, what went wrong with this team? First half of the season. What's up?
Stefon Diggs. That's what went wrong.
Yeah, Stefon Diggs didn't help. First half of the season, they had Ken Dorsey. Looked to be better under Joe Brady. In the regular season, this team is a juggernaut. They struggled early on, couldn't figure it out. Then they went on a tear towards the end of the year. It doesn't help that their defense, wasn't great towards the end. Yes, injuries, but I also think Sean McDermott is still not a great head coach and defensive coordinator. What do we do about Diggs here? He's there. Trade
Yeah,
him.
and I don't even know that he's going to be there next year, the way that the season played out. I mean, I don't know how you go, what do you have, like 9 straight weeks without a 100-yard game? Like, that's
He was a
just
ghost.
not, yeah, he was an absolute ghost for this team. And I don't know if it was just Joe Brady's offense, like wanting to be able to spread the ball around a little bit more and just put more faith in Josh Allen. And like, that's why they drafted Dalton Kincaid. Like you mentioned, Khalil Shakir kind of starting to come on a little bit. Gabe Davis, he's a free agent. I don't think he's coming back. But James Cook, he looked like the real deal in that offense. I mean, he's averaging almost 10 yards a reception and well over or close to 5 yards carry, 4.7 on the ground. Like he brings some juice to that offense. I still think this team could use a better RB2, someone that could come in and really spell Cook. I mean, Damian Harris, I thought, and we even talked about that on the show with Liz as one of her bottomless bets was over under. I think his preseason rushing prop was like 550 and a half or 500 and a half or something along those lines. And all of us took the over because we all kind of figured like, hey, this offense is going to operate with an RB2. They didn't need one. Josh Allen's the RB2.
Yeah, and Damian Harris got injured as well, which didn't help.
Well, yeah,
but
I mean, he only played 6 games, but
yes, Josh
Latavius
Allen
Murray
is,
came in and played. They brought in Lombardi Lenny for a little bit. Like, it just, I don't know. Like, the offensive identity for so long was Josh Allen to Stefon Diggs. Really started to veer from that when Joe Brady took over the play calling. They've now dropped the interim tag. Joe Brady is the OC for this team for the foreseeable future. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this offense shakes out, right? Did Dalton Kincaid ascend to this, like, becoming like a GOAT tight end in year 2 for him in 2024? What do they do at wide receiver 1? Do they bring Diggs back? Do they, draft from this deeper wide receiver class? There's to me a lot of offseason questions that this team needs to answer.
it was very interesting because we talk about where he came from, LSU, with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Thaddeus Moss, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, all those guys. So you say, well, he worked with Justin Jefferson, worked with Jamar Chase. Why wouldn't you hyper-target the best guy on the team? Well, when you have 4 very good collegiate weapons, you're going to spread the ball around. Hence, Khalil Shakir getting it. James Cook getting more involved when Joe Brady comes in. Dalton Kincaid going to probably start seeing a lot more next season as well. I spread the ball around is good when you have the players to do it. I don't really think Khalil Shakir and Gabe Davis should be getting, equal targets to Stefon Diggs.
No. I mean, and let's pump the brakes there. Just Diggs still had 160 targets. The next closest had 91, and that was Kincaid.
Yeah.
So, like, he was still getting peppered with targets. They just weren't high-quality targets.
No.
Not at all.
So Brady wasn't scheming him open.
Nope.
Exactly. That's not good. That's not good. If you can't scheme Stefon Diggs open, you think Gabe Davis is getting there?
Nope.
You want to go into next season with Gabe Davis as your one? Big game Gabe, as Tony Romo calls him. Just quick sidebar. How fucking inferior is the CBS broadcast compared to the Fox broadcast? Holy shit.
Yeah, and now Fox is screwing up because they're bringing in Tom Brady. And
I agree with that. I think that's stupid.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say that Tom Brady can't be good at this.
Oh, he'll be great. Let's be clear.
He'll find a way to be great. I believe it. But it's like, why are you messing with an already good thing? Like, I just don't. That's really surprising to me.
You have the best broadcast booth in football right now. Don't fuck with it. Now, again, you gave Tom a lot of money. A lot of money. So it'll be interesting to see if CBS decides to see you, Tony, and goes after Greg Olsen, but we'll see. I don't really, dude, fuck the Bills. Like, you want to talk about what went wrong? Is Sean McDermott still the fucking head coach? Josh Allen doesn't have the balls in the playoffs, and he still can't beat Mahomes. There you go. Like, what's wrong with the Bills is they're regular season warriors, and wide right can't escape the franchise. Like, they're a loser franchise. You can rope the Buffalo Bills in with the Detroit Lions and the Cleveland Browns. 100. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
At least the Bills have made Super Bowls, man. Like, come on.
You lost 4 straight Super Bowls. Do you know how hard it is to make it to 4 straight, let alone lose all 4 of them? It's hard enough to get there, and then you lost all of them. That's hard to do.
Yeah, definitely not easy.
That's hard to do. Like, Kansas City's made 4 and 5 years, and they're 2-1 currently, obviously going into this year. We'll see what happens. Kansas City, even if they go 2-2, they won 2 of them. They didn't lose all 4. So, Buffalo, cursed franchise. You are literally in the same sentence as Detroit and Cleveland. I mean that wholeheartedly. Cincinnati Bengals. Speaking of Jamar Chase, Josh, you're my guy, Jamar Chase. Could say disappointing at the wide receiver 11. Still a wide receiver 1.
Well, look, he was my offseason wide receiver 1. That's why he was my guy. And I know a lot of people kind of had, they had him in their top 3, top 5.
Yes.
So finishing as a wide receiver 11, yes, that is disappointing to say the least. But when you factor in losing his starting quarterback and still finishing as a wide receiver 1, I think that's still pretty impressive. And it just goes to show the amount of talent that Jamar Chase has.
Yeah. Ryan, this is the ugliest RB6 finish. How does Joe Mixon continually finish inside the top 10, and he's averaged the last 2 years less than 4 yards per carry?
And we talked about it last week with the Bucs and Rachaad White. It's volume, and he somehow stayed healthy. Like, that was the difference in RB finishes this year, because 256 carries, barely 1,000 yards. Like, he did exactly what he does. He scores touchdowns. We talked about this on the show. And this was my argument. Liz was just like, look, it's the volume. And I said, yeah, at a certain point, that volume's just not going to be there. Well, dumb on me. And this is why Liz works at ESPN. The volume was there. He stayed healthy. He kept getting the football, plain and simple.
Yeah, he did.
He's a warm body at this point. So,
and my sleeper, who I had, Chase Brown, didn't come on until later in the year when they started to utilize him a little more, which I think he will dig into Joe Mixon's carries next year a lot more.
He showed that he's got some juice.
That man is fast. Yeah. He's a quick little man.
And you talk about over 10 yards of reception. I think he was at 14 catches for 156 yards. Give that man the ball in space, and he's going to do some damage.
Yeah, no, if he's in space, you're not catching him. Is what the issue is. I had him as my sleeper. He was RB63 before the season. That's exactly where he finished. So no hit on a sleeper. But the IDP, I don't care about anything else ever that I uttered back in the months of May through August. Trey Hendrickson was the biggest fucking smash hit home run this show has ever seen. All right? Tied for second in the league in sacks. I told you. Trey Hendrickson is a fucking dog. I've been riding this guy for years. And I said, the reason I'm riding the high so much on this guy is I said, the reason I put him inside the top 10 in the IDP show, I went back, listened to it exactly, because I knew exactly why I did it. I said, it's a contract year. He's playing for the last contract he'll get in the NFL because he's 31, 32. He's playing for his last contract. This man is going to ball the fuck out. And what did he do, Josh? Balled the fuck out. He balled the fuck out. That man was toe-to-toe with TJ Watt the whole fucking season. Myles Garrett, Defensive Player of the Year. This guy has more sacks. Get rolled, everybody. I love Trey Hendrickson. My guys from the Bengals defense, Trey Hendrickson and Jesse Bates, who went to Atlanta. All pros. Yep. Boom. Let's go. Obviously, Joe Burrow getting hurt does not help this team. That one is very obvious what went wrong. Their offensive line, still a fucking issue. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
And I don't get it. And they've invested so many resources. I mean, getting Orlando Brown. I've always thought Orlando Brown was really overrated.
Overrated.
Anyway. But now you bring in Brown and you displace Jonah Williams from his natural position of left tackle, moving him to the right side. So a lot of transitions there. I mean, it's just I'm really starting to think that Joe Burrow is just holding on to the ball too long. Like, an offensive line is only as good as the quickness the quarterback gets rid of the football, right? At the end of the day. So, I mean, you can't expect people to hold blocks for 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. Like, it just doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, maybe it's just Zach Taylor and the play calls that, force the wide receivers to get out of their breaks longer. And that's why Joe Burrow has to hold on to the football so long. Or maybe it's just Joe Burrow just trying to make plays. And this is why he keeps getting hurt. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously losing Burrow, it sucks. It's kind of where all the stats fell off from there. But Tee Higgins was really kind of had a disappointing season. And I know part of that was injuries, but we're all talking about him as like the hot free agent. 656 yards in 12 games. And again, like, I get it. You had a backup quarterback for most of the season. But Jamar Chase had double that. I don't know. Just throwing that out there.
I like Tee Higgins a lot. I think he was
injured.
And
I'm not second guessing that. Like, I love Tee Higgins, but I'm just saying maybe there is some temper expectations with him.
I agree. I think he was playing injured a lot of the season. I think he's been injured for a while. So, I mean, that tends to come with the territory of being a taller, skinnier wide receiver. I mean, AJ Green wasn't exactly the most injury prone, he didn't avoid injury a lot. So, I think Tee Higgins, where he goes, you should keep an eye on him. I think if he goes to a very offensive-friendly area, he will be overdrafted. But if he goes to a spot where maybe it's just kind of like he's there, it'll be good for him, he might slide in fantasy drafts a little bit. And especially if that team also gets a rookie wide receiver, maybe he slides in drafts a little bit. So, could be an interesting spot. How about this? I don't think it happens. If he goes to Dallas,
I don't think they're going to cap space.
I don't think they would. I don't think he'd go there either. I'm just throwing it out there. It would be interesting. I think his ADP would temper because it's still against CeeDee Lamb, but he would be. How's
Cowboys
their cap?
Almost $23 million over the cap.
That's easy. What are you talking about? What even is the cap when you think about it? What even is the cap? What even is the cap? Moving on to the.
Since he's got $53 million plus to deal with, so I mean, realistically, I think a lot of people are saying, yeah, we want Tee Higgins out of there. I really don't think he's going to go anywhere.
It'll be very interesting to see come the middle of March on what happens in free agency, especially with him most likely being the guy at the wide receiver position that people want to target. The 49ers, who are in the Super Bowl, yay. Kyle Shanahan is in the Super Bowl.
I hope Brock Purdy gets blasted.
But, I don't want the Chiefs to win. So
you're just trying to protect the aura around the Patriots dynasty, that's all.
No, it's not. It's not that. The Chiefs are Travis Kelce is an infuriating human being. Okay? Forget the Taylor Swift side of things. He is an infuriating human being. Ugh. Disgusting. Hate him. No. Travis Kelce is an infuriating human being. Fuck the Chiefs. All right? We're all done. Fuck the Chiefs. Don't even bring it up. Don't even bring it up.
Oh, Emma, I love you.
Fuck the Chiefs, dude. Fuck the Chiefs. But I can't root for Kyle Shanahan. That's not a thing. I can't physically do that.
No.
So that's why.
Look, I love Andy Reid. I'm always going to root for whoever he's coaching. And
listen, that's fine. He coached the Eagles. That's fine. That's fine. And I can rest saying that, if Mahomes wins, I saw him in his first ever Super Bowl win against the 49ers 5 years ago. So, I can rest on that. That's cool. I can say that. That's cool. That's fun. I don't want it to happen, but if he gets 3, great. It's also the fucking that everybody does with him on a broadcast, okay? Like nobody did that with Brady. Nobody did that with Manning. Literally nobody did that with all these greats, but we're all just to Patrick Mahomes when he makes a 5-yard out pass. Like he just did something crazy. Every time Lamar made even a decent throw, I was like, when's Tony going to compare him to Patrick Mahomes? The dick sucking of Mahomes that will happen 2 Sundays from now. Insane. 49ers. Brandon Ayuk, Josh, you're doing pretty good this show. You're doing pretty good.
Had to get something right.
Yeah, had to get one thing right. Well, good thing. Everybody else took Ayuk. So that's big time.
Well, in fairness, a lot of this was he was being drafted after Deebo Samuel, and we all said that he would be the wide receiver 1 on this team, that he would outscore Deebo Samuel. Both of those things were kind of true. He out-targeted Deebo. He did score more total fantasy points than Deebo, but Deebo averaged more fantasy points per game. So kind of toss up in terms of that, but I think overall it was a good pick. Like, you wanted George. Basically, you wanted this offense, plain and simple. And trying to find an alternative to CMC because all of us knew CMC was going to be the guy. Like, that'd make it a little interesting. So.
I put Ayuk as the sleeper.
Yeah, I mean, he was a steal at wide receiver 33.
Yep, he was a literal steal. And I should have put Christian McCaffrey in all honesty because he was going 3rd overall and you idiots were taking Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson above him. So I was right on McCaffrey. But who isn't, honestly? Brandon Ayuk, ADP, wide receiver 33. My ADP was Javon Hargrave, nowhere near his Philadelphia numbers.
He started the season pretty well, though. Because I remember there was a lot of comparisons early on, like, just watching the numbers between like Jalen Carter, Javon Hargrave, they were pretty neck and neck. So it wasn't really like.
But in fantasy, it was
losing
just
a step per se. But
in fantasy, it was meh. Like overall, it was just meh. Fuck you, Nick Bosa. Catch a contract. Don't sack literally anything in the world. Okay, awesome. That whole defensive line, underwhelming in the stat sheet. Underwhelming.
They got a lot of pressures, but
they didn't convert.
It didn't feel like as many sacks.
Yes,
as years past.
Which pressures is a great thing in football. It's a terrible thing in fantasy football. It does nothing for you. So, what went wrong with this team? Well, they're in the Super Bowl.
So not much.
So that's a hard thing to dissect. McCaffrey. Dog. It's like,
dog.
What?
I mean, just call a spade a spade. Dude's a dog.
If anybody does not listen, I know there has not been a single repeat RB1 performance since the Vietnam War. I'm well aware of that stat, okay? If you're not drafting Christian McCaffrey 1 overall, you need to be checked into a mental institution. Because something is wrong with your brain.
Yeah. It's the same concept that Ryan brought up last year, going into the offseason drafts and everything, on making the case for Travis Kelce at the 101. It's a positional advantage, right?
Insane.
Christian McCaffrey outscored the RB2 by over 100 fantasy points.
Close.
He is a cheat code. And the way that running backs are falling off, and it's not even necessarily because of how they're being used by teams. It's just they can't stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
McCaffrey is not only outproducing everybody, but he's also staying healthy. Like, this isn't a Rachaad White, Joe Mixon kind of scenario where he's just getting the volume and making
which he is also getting the volume.
He's also getting the volume, and he's maximizing it because he averages what feels like 10 yards a touch. So
pretty much. Just draft him, please.
Yeah.
You're stupid if you don't.
It's not close.
No, nobody should even snip. He's the 101, and then you can skip down to the 107, and then Justin Jefferson can be taken with the 2nd pick in the draft. Nobody touches him. Nobody comes close. Nobody's near him. Christian McCaffrey is himmy.
What I'm going to be interested to see with this offense next year is, I mean, we talk about this all the time. Efficiency has to come down at some point, right? Like you can't continue to just looking at yards per catch, right? Brandon Ayuk 17.9, George Kittle 15.7. By the way, the only tight end this season that topped 1,000 yards. Deebo 14.9, Juwan Jennings 13.9. You want to go even further down. Chris Conley had 6 targets on the year and averaged 23 yards per catch. Like, these guys are stupid efficient when they get the football in their hands. Kyle Shanahan, give him a lot of shit. I think he's overrated as the head coach, but he knows how to scheme a fucking offense, and that's not a secret, right? He gets these guys in space, and he found the quarterback that makes it all click, right? But the way this defense is formed to close this season, I'm telling you, they should be worried in the Super Bowl. But Elijah Mitchell only getting 75 carries because Christian McCaffrey is just that damn good. Like, cool. That's kind of where you're at. It's just like, well, they didn't give enough to the second running back, or the wide receiver 1 only saw 105 targets. That's what went wrong, right? Like, we want to see these guys get 130, 140, 150 targets because we just know that efficiency is going to come down. I'm not 100% sure that it will with this team. So I think we can just keep kind of penciling them in for these types of highly efficient seasons.
I'll pencil in McCaffrey. Actually, put it in pen. Don't even put it in pencil. Yeah. Pen. A permanent marker. Christian McCaffrey will be there. Moving on to the Chicago Bears. Our guys from the offseason, Joshua DJ Moore, wide receiver 6. It did not look pretty for the first few weeks, but wide receiver 6. Ryan had Justin Fields. Has Ryan gotten a single thing right on this show?
I don't think. Well, he had Brandon Ayuk last one. So.
That was like pure pressure though from like everybody. So Justin Fields, quarterback 19. Lauren Carpenter, guest on the show. Khalil Herbert. I remember she was defending him hard.
Yeah. I mean, he led their running back room in rushing yards, so there's that. But I mean, he missed 5 games.
That's like being the tallest midget.
Played 9 games.
Congratulations! Like, you led the Bears in rushing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in fairness, Justin Fields led the Bears in rushing.
You led the Bears running backs in rushing. Okay. That was a miss.
It's just a shit show. So.
Darnell Mooney. Anybody do a house call on him? Is he alive? Does he know he's here? Dropped a Hail Mary. That's all I know. Right in his bread basket. And my IDP was Tremaine Edmonds. I said before the season it was a toss-up between the 2 linebackers they signed. TJ Edwards was more of the guy. I thought it was going to be Tremaine Edmonds. TJ Edwards was the guy. So next year, it's going to be TJ Edwards. Shocking. But TJ Edwards is more the guy. What went wrong?
A lot.
They don't have a coaching staff.
A competent one, anyway.
The competent one that knows what football is. It took Justin Fields a minute, and by a minute, I mean like 11 games, to feel good.
Even then, though, like, you were not happy if you drafted Justin Fields. And I'm not even talking.
I drafted Justin Fields in multiple leagues. I'm not happy. Correct.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I get, he missed games, only played 13 games. But in points per game, he was the quarterback 12.
Which is insane as a guy who had him in multiple leagues.
But
didn't feel like
again, you didn't feel that way. He was almost, I think, 6 fantasy points per game behind the quarterback 1. And he was QB 19 overall. I got a lot of shit in the offseason when I only had Justin Fields, I think, as my QB 10. Double check my rankings. But like everybody was like, how can you have him that low? The rushing yards are going to be there, blah, 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 this and that. He was my QB 11. So I was pretty spot on with where Justin Fields finished in points per game, right? The rushing yards weren't there. I had him at 893. No. He finished at 657. Like
it was schemed that way though, which was pissing everybody off.
Yeah.
And it started coming alive later in the season when they let him kind of run a little more. And I understand wanting to get this guy to be more comfortable, throw the football more, and not always use running as the option to bail out. But if we saw anything from the AFC, if there was one takeaway you had from the AFC Championship of Lamar Jackson, it was he held the ball too long, was trying to make too big of plays, and didn't use his feet. Do you know how many times that man could have ran for at least 10 yards on a first down? How many times? The guy that they used in practice, that they planned in the defensive game plan to spy you, was out. Does that not tell you maybe you should fucking run? But no, Todd Monken, in his dumb brain, was like, no, we're going to keep him in the pocket. We're going to run deep crossers. So the play calling hurt this team aggressively, because if Justin Fields was allowed to do Justin Fields things, which, let's all be real, Justin Fields can't throw the fucking football. He still needs to figure it out. He has 5 throws a game where you're like, holy shit, he can throw.
Yeah, there's no consistency in his mechanics
No,
at all.
but there's like, that's why he needs coaching, because there are those throws where you're like, holy fuck, he can throw. The game against Cleveland, he dropped 2 dots down the field that were just straight up dropped. He dropped them right in the bread basket 50 yards down the field. You're like, the best quarterbacks in the league make those throws. There's guys that teams have tethered to them that do not make those throws, and they have way more money tethered to them than Fields. That's why I don't believe they should go take Caleb Williams. Williams' USC teammates have said, we played better as a team when Caleb wasn't there. I understand the generational talent. I get it. He's insane. You don't break up a meshed team for that. When you can get another generational talent to give that quarterback. It's not like if Caleb Williams wasn't in this draft, who's the first overall pick? Marvin Harrison.
It's still going to be a quarterback.
Well, now, great. Somebody would probably trade up for a quarterback, correct? Somebody would probably do that. But if there's no trades in the draft and Caleb Williams isn't there, Marvin Harrison's the number 1 pick. 100% Marvin Harrison. No, it's
Drake May.
It's not Drake May. It's not Drake May. Drake May's a piece of shit. It's not Drake May. Jaden Daniels is pushed up to 3 because the Pats need a quarterback. Marvin Harrison would be the one.
No.
All right, Marvin Harrison's walking away from this draft as the best thing that was drafted inside the top 4. It's not even close. So it doesn't matter. You need to get him Marvin Harrison. You need to get him offensive line help at 9. Do not take Caleb Williams. You need to get Fields a good coach. And then
Fields needs a good coach, but he's also just not good. I'm sorry. He's not. You're talking about building around a guy that led this team to 7 wins. That's not, you have a chance now to reset the rookie contract scale, time period, all that. That's what you do, because he has not shown any realistic improvement through 3 years. He just hasn't done it.
Listen, I don't disagree with you. Everything you're saying is correct. Caleb Williams is going to ruin what you have with that team.
That's where you do your homework, right? Like, it's the same. You can sit here and talk about talent, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. You have to dive into the personality. You have to dive into what's between the ears, all that good stuff. That's how you ultimately make this decision, right? And that's not going to happen right away. You have to, this is where the interviews, where the combine comes in, all those different things that go into this process before you ultimately decide, all right, this is when we're going to trade Fields, or we're going to trade this pick, et cetera, et cetera. None of that has taken place yet. And that's okay. So right now, it's all just speculation. But I still think that you take a quarterback, plain and simple. Just my opinion.
I'm just going to say it on air. If it's wrong, no one's going to find it. If it's right, I'm going to let everybody never live it down. Caleb Williams just feels like he got Jamarcus Russell on him. It just feels icky. It just feels icky. It's his attitude. It just feels icky. That's all. Just feels icky. Just throwing it out there right now. They should take Marvin Harrison. That is all, folks. Thank you. We're not going to talk about the Bears any further. We'll talk about, Josh, what went wrong with the Philadelphia Eagles? What didn't go wrong when you think about it? So, the Josh's Eagles. Josh said, my guys, everyone. All right, let's see how that paid off. Hurts, quarterback 2. Not bad. DeAndre Swift, RB20. Higher than his ADP.
Yeah, but I mean, points per game, his ADP was RB25.
Yep. That's why I said my sleeper was Swift, and I said, yeah, no, kind of.
Started hot, but they just couldn't figure out how to use him properly. That's really what it boiled down to.
Correct. A.J. Brown, wide receiver 5. Didn't feel like it. Let me tell you, it did not feel like it.
Not towards the end of the season.
No. Devonta Smith, wide receiver 19. Didn't feel like it. As somebody who had him, didn't feel like it. Goddard, tight end 13. Yeah.
He missed time.
He did.
But
Devonta Smith was Ryan's.
His offense was just not cohesive at all. There was no. We'll get to the further point later.
Devonta Smith was Ryan's my guy. Lauren's my guy was Rashad Penny, to which I'm pretty sure I laughed in her face at that one, if I remember correctly.
Mind you, Lauren is a very, very, very good friend of us and this show. We can do that.
To be fair, I'd laugh in any guest's face if they said Rashad Penny. Just throwing that out there. But yes, it's easier with Lauren because she's been here a time or two.
She's part of the family.
She is. My IDP was Fletcher Cox. I was like, you know what? One last ride, baby. I remember that's what I said. It said one last ride. Nope. It was like a merry-go-round that broke halfway through. He's just old. The old man is old. That's what he is.
They were playing him a lot of snaps this season.
I thought he was going to come in and like mentor the young guys and I thought
it was going to be more of like him kind of, just supplementing, being part of the rotation.
Yeah, rotation.
He was
a guy.
Starter, really. Yeah.
Insanity when you have Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter right there. Insanity. Josh, I mean, I'll let you go. What went wrong here? And a lot of it came in the second half.
I mean, it was the offense. I mean, it was the offense. It was literally it was everything. But they clearly missed Shane Steichen, but they were trying to replicate what Steichen did. But Steichen's just next level. He's that good. I mean, he led the Colts
Look what he did with
to
Indy.
the playoffs with a backup quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's a good
to Pro Bowl quarterback. Okay. Pro Bowl quarterback, Gardner Minshew, you dick.
I was so when I saw that, I tagged you in a tweet. I was so waiting for you to pull up. You remember that Captain America graphic that you did with Gardner Minshew? I was so waiting for you to post that.
Captain America, the man, the myth, the legend, Captain Minshew.
Yeah, but I mean, they couldn't figure out the running back rotation. Swift shot out of a cannon the first month of the season. And it just felt like he died after that. Why they kept wanting to use
the cannon had one cannonball. That was it.
It just didn't make any sense.
No.
They kept wanting to rotate Kenneth Gainwell. And look, maybe he's good in pass protection, but that's it. He's not a great running back at all. And I don't understand this loyalty that Nick Sirianni has to him. They barely used Boston Scott. He didn't even score against the Giants this year.
That's when you know it's
bad. You know that your system is not working when you can't get Boston Scott into the fucking end zone against the Giants. Let's be honest.
That's tough. That's the bar for the Eagles is Boston Scott in the end zone against the Giants.
But the Rashad Penny only playing 3 games, and it wasn't even because he got hurt.
No, it was healthy.
That to me it did not make any sense at all.
But it made so much sense at the exact same time.
Yes and no. But again, he's better than Kenneth Gainwell.
Oh, yeah.
So that therein lies my point. But there were times when you saw him run, especially in the preseason, and you're like, oh, man, the juice is gone. Like that speed just isn't there. So maybe that played into it. And I know they were kind of working him on kickoffs towards the end of the year as well. But it just like felt like a flat out demotion in some weird way. But this offense just doesn't work when they literally only involve 3 people. There's no mixing, no matching, no motion, none of that. And it's like, you got to fix this shit. Bringing in Kellen Moore should help. Like, I know this season really didn't go great for the Chargers. We know obviously what happened with Justin Herbert, but like Kellen Moore just, I don't know how running backs work with him. I don't. Like, there needs to be a 1 and a 2, right?
Yeah.
Swift is a free agent. Maybe he comes back. Maybe he doesn't. But it's either 1 or it's either 2. Because quite honestly, I don't know. Is it going to be Kellen Moore's system? Or are we sticking with this whole Nick Sirianni system and Kellen Moore calling that system? Because if it's the latter, we're going to be right back in the same situation next year.
Mm-hmm. This team has a head coaching issue, is what it is. They have a head coaching issue, and they didn't address it. They pinned it on the coordinators, which the coordinators didn't help. Let's get that straight. The coordinators definitely didn't help, but they have a head coaching issue. And a man who feels like he was riding the coattails of 2 very good coordinators in Gannon and Steichen. So, and we said that a lot about Sean Payton when Sean Payton was gone first as a head coach because he was suspended with the Saints. They didn't miss a beat because the coordinators were doing Sean Payton's job. So it feels like more Sirianni, just you said he's a puppet. Feels like more of a rah-rah, just like get the locker room going. But the Eagles at the end of the season just looked, they didn't want to be there.
They looked disinterested.
They didn't want to play.
Yeah.
They didn't give a shit. And if you as a head coach can't rally your guys over a course of 8 weeks to figure out just one game, that's a bad look.
That's pretty telling in my opinion.
That's a bad look. Moving on to the defending Super Bowl champions and current Super Bowl contenders. I hate my life.
And yet not the favorite in the Super Bowl. Still find that weird, but that's okay.
I don't really know. Because to me, they're saying it's a neutral site. So the opening line was favored 2.5 the 49ers. So what you're telling me is Kansas City at home is favored. So anytime there's
by not even a point.
Yeah, they're still favored though. So what you're telling me is on a neutral site. If on a neutral site the favored team is favored by less than 3, it's an even match.
Yeah.
To me, it's an even match. Because I honestly, by game time, it's going to be a pick'em. So much money is going plus 2.5 to the Chiefs. It's going to be a pick'em by game time. And that's what it should be. This game is a straight up pick'em. This is not Tom Brady and the Bucs against the Chiefs. And the Bucs should not have been underdogs in that game. Like, this is your look at like Bengals Rams. That felt like a pick'em going into it, right? That felt like a pick'em. Last year it was Eagles -3, or one team was -3. That right there is telling you that game right there is a pick'em. That's what it is.
What it was. I mean,
yes, and that's what it is. So everyone is freaking out that the Chiefs are underdogs in this game. No, they're fucking not. This is a pick'em, and if the Chiefs are at home, they're favored. That's what this game is, right? Obviously, if the Niners were at home, the Niners are favored too. But it's a pick'em. The Chiefs, honestly, had an underwhelming regular season comparatively to what we were expecting. Josh, you're my guy, Travis Kelce, tight end 3. So was Ryan's. And we're all going to say it. It was disappointing.
Well, it was. I mean, it really was. I mean, you drafted him in the first round because, again, positional advantage. There wasn't that. In points per game, he was tied for the tight end 1 position. So
T.J. Hawkinson.
Yeah. And so you did not get the value where you took him at. Plain and simple.
Yep. Lauren, 3 misses from her. I mean, I'm not saying QB8 at Mahomes is a miss, but he was being taken as the number 1 quarterback. Yeah, he was being taken as an... And you want to talk about how bad of a season Justin Fields had. Justin Fields had 0.3 less points per game than Patrick Mahomes. Dark.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it really just kind of felt like your my guys here were either Pacheco or Rice, especially when it comes to value and where they were going in drafts.
Speaking of Rashee Rice, but real quick, Mahomes, I didn't know this. 27 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. He was just undisciplined a lot this year as well.
Well, and I mean, this offense really didn't look great throughout this
Drops
year.
Don't help him either, but
no, they didn't. Definitely did
Still a less than 2-to-1 touchdown ratio from Mahomes. It's tough.
I mean, you had the same thing with Josh Allen, same thing with Jalen Hurts, and both those guys were top 2 quarterbacks in fantasy. So,
I mean, well, their offense is literally run through them, figuratively and literally. Mahomes isn't the body of Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen, so that's why
his 75 rush attempts, though.
Sure, but no touchdowns.
Yeah,
Jalen Hurts is scoring 11 touchdowns in his sleep. So is Josh Allen on the ground. So, my sleeper though, wide receiver university, Rashee Rice, SMU. What more is there to say, folks? Wide
definitely
receiver
came on the second half of the season.
Oh yeah, he did. Wide receiver 66 to start the year, and I mentioned I put Rashee Rice here because he's from SMU. Obviously, I was going to put Rashee Rice here, but a big reason why he was also here, there was no fucking competition for him. He didn't have to compete with an AJ Brown, a Tyreek Hill. Yeah. He was competing with Marquez Valdez-Scantling for wide receiver routes.
Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Justin Watson.
He was competing with nobody. He was literally competing with nobody. So he comes in. The dude is talented. First off, this isn't because he's with Mahomes, all these things. This man is talented. He's a good player, and holy shit, is he fast! I did not realize how fast he is. Quick guy.
A good back guy.
Whew, love it. So I think Rashee Rice moving forward, I do think he will be maybe overdrafted because he's attached to Mahomes and how hot he played second half of the year, and with how he's looked in the playoffs.
I don't think that he will be.
I'm scared.
I don't think that he will be. I think that, to me, when you look at how this is going to shake out in the offseason, you're still going to have people on Tee Higgins, especially if he stays in Cincinnati. You're still going to have people on Devonta Smith. You're still going to have people on Jalen Waddle. I still think that there's a spot here where you're basically drafting him as like a wide receiver 2. But
so here's
because he's attached to Mahomes, he has that wide receiver 1 upside.
Here's my worry. I think people are going to draft him like they did Christian Watson this past year. And I don't like him that high. I don't like him. Now, granted, do I think he can finish there? Yes, but I think you're drafting him at his ceiling. If he's there in like the mid wide receiver 30s, sign me the fuck up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, that's Brandon Ayuk all over again.
Yes, and that's where I'm hoping he falls, because I think people see the Travis Kelce resurgence, and if he comes back next year and doesn't double retire with his brother, which I don't think is going to happen, if he doesn't do that, there's a shock, because obviously the Travis Kelce taking targets away is obviously a huge thing. Interested to see what happens. My IDP, Justin Reed, career high in tackles and sacks, dog, hit, easy. The fact no one talked about him is insane, and the fact Tony Romo just found out about him in the AFC Championship because he mentioned him 7 times is also insane. What went wrong?
The wide receivers.
The wide receivers, obviously. I mean, yeah, the wide receivers not going after a true wide receiver in the offseason. Not going after
or even
DeAndre
at the trade
Hopkins.
Deadline.
That too. But like DeAndre Hopkins was there for you.
Oh my God. D-Hop would have. I mean, granted, we probably don't see the Rashee Rice
you don't
come up, but you definitely see a higher than QB8 finish for Patrick Mahomes if DeAndre Hopkins is there. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins had 130 targets on the fucking Titans. He could have easily had 140 plus with this Chiefs team and made life so much easier for Travis Kelce.
And where that leaked over to you fantasy managers is those of you that drafted Travis Kelce, presumably in the first round, there was nobody to take any attention away from him. Not a single person. And you say, well, wasn't that the same case in 2022, in the 2022 season? No.
Because you still, I mean, granted, you still had Juju, and for as much shit as we talk about Juju as him just not being a great wide receiver, he's always been a pretty competent number 2 target. He was the same way in Pittsburgh.
You at least had to respect him a little bit, whereas
and you had to respect him last year.
You didn't have to respect Juju in 2023.
Well, because A, he was dealing with a knee injury most of the season, but B,
he was on the Patriots.
He was on the Patriots, and that offense was dog shit. So
correct. Yes, I watched it. Watched for all 17 games. That was the big thing that hurt Travis Kelce this year, was no other option to take away from him. But even when Rashee Rice started coming on late in the season, Kelce still didn't feel like he was there. And listen, I will never understand. Do NFL teams just not watch other games that happen? Because how is Travis Kelce being single covered and having zone played against him?
Yeah.
Did you not watch Chiefs games this year? It was, if you stop Travis Kelce, you win the game. And granted, despite Travis Kelce going for 117 and a touchdown, the Ravens held him to 17 points. So, there's that, but then that also begs the question, too. Again, going into next year with the Chiefs, we're assuming they go get a receiver. Going into next year with the Chiefs, if they're getting 17 held to them by what I think a lot of people believed was a horrible coaching job by Baltimore all around, what does that look like for them next year in a division where we're presuming every single team in that division is only getting better with Harbaugh coming in to coach? But Antonio Pierce is back. The guys love him. Yeah, the Broncos, they're still going to get better, though.
Yeah, but you're still talking about half the teams in that division that haven't figured out the quarterback position.
I agree with that statement. Yeah, I agree with that statement. But those are teams where Denver has your number a little bit.
Yeah, they play good
the Chargers beat you in Arrowhead a lot. The Raiders can't figure you the fuck. Well, actually, the Raiders can't. Did they beat them twice? Or am I thinking?
They beat them once this year.
Yeah. But, previously, the Raiders couldn't figure you the fuck out. That was not a thing. But Antonio Pierce, we've seen. The guys want to rally around him. Kansas City's a playoff team. They will forever be with Mahomes at quarterback, obviously. You just need to get him some weapons because I think Mahomes is going to be, again, overdrafted if you don't get him a true wide receiver 1 as a weapon. I think that's a scary prospect for the Chiefs going into next season. For this year, it hurt Travis Kelce. I don't really know what much else to say that. It's hard to peg what went wrong for this team. You're in the Super Bowl.
But I mean, that's what went wrong. I mean,
yeah.
The philosophy of this team really started to shift. Like, for the last few years, it's been the offense that's carried this team. This is a really good defense. And
it's an overperforming defense. I don't want to say it's good. Spagnuolo is doing a great job calling the defense.
He's doing a fantastic job. But this is a much more physical defense than they've had in years past.
I agree with that.
I mean, Snead has not been afraid to get up in wide receivers' faces. They play a lot of press, and it throws the wide receivers off. I mean, that's essentially how they were able to kind of contain Zay Flowers, excuse me.
He's tiny.
In the Baltimore game. Yeah, well, and that's the thing. It's like if you're going to be physical against these smaller wide receivers that are coming into this league, that's how you can slow down these electric offenses. And, I mean, there was that one clip where, it's this whole, free Rashad Bateman thing. Bateman put Snead on fucking skates, and my God, it was beautiful. Except he didn't get thrown the fucking football.
Because Snead can't cover. Let's get that straight. Snead is a big body where Spags figured out, put him in press and get the receiver off his rhythm. Snead can't cover in off coverage. He's bad. He's not a good corner. Watch his... Rashad Bateman put him on fucking skates, Josh. Rashad Bateman.
Bateman's a good route runner, dude.
Bateman's a good route runner. Okay. He's had, 1,000 yards the last 2 seasons, not even?
Well, he's been hurt.
Josh, Josh, my point stands. Legere, he can't cover. Okay, he can't cover. Trent McDuffie, overrated. Their defense is overrated. Spags has them playing at his best. What do we say about the Vikings this year? The Vikings are a terrible defense. Flores had them playing like they were fucking all pros, out of their fucking minds.
And now, that's where a scheme can come into play.
100%. And I think the scheme's great. They're still the 28th best. They're the 4th worst run defense in the NFL. Yeah. Guess who they're playing on 2 Sundays from now? The best running back of this generation. Yeah. Like, what? Okay, let's see them stop that. They now have to. They're not playing Zay Flowers and Tyreek Hill and these small body, not physical guys. They are playing Debo fucking Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. The only thing that they have going for them is Kyle Shanahan is the coach on the opposite side. That's the only thing they have going for them. I don't know. I really don't think this defense is anything special. If you have to dial up 50% blitzes, come on now. You're dialing up 50% of your plays as blitzes.
Yeah, I mean, well, they've got outside of Chris Jones, they have a pretty young defensive line.
Karlaftis is good. I'll give him that.
But again, second-year player.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, young.
So that's what I'm saying. Like it takes. I know there's this level of instant gratification with everything nowadays. So it's like if a rookie doesn't come in and light the league on fire, it's like he's never going to, and that's not the case.
But they're playing with
growing into their roles as pass rushers.
Your linebackers are fucking ancient. You have Willie Gay on your team. What do you?
They definitely need a youth movement at linebacker. That's for sure.
I don't know. Listen, I don't want San Fran to win, but at the same time, I do want them to win. So I'm just hoping. I need the Chiefs defense to be fucking exposed. That's what I need. I need the defense to be exposed, just so everyone can see how much of a fraud L'Jarius Sneed is. That's all I need. That's all I'm here for. That's all, folks. That finally wraps up the look back at fantasy football for 2023. I wouldn't say pretty good. Not too bad. Not too shabby. We're feeling good about it.
Bad.
Yeah, as there always will be. Next week we have and next week we'll have our Super Bowl prop bet show every year as we do. Do we have guests?
So Mark Drumheller from Fantasy Life, Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life, is going to be joining us this year.
3rd straight year of Mark Drumheller.
Yeah.
3rd straight year of him having a different title. So Mark Drumheller will join us. Very excited. He's always fun to have on.
Show might be on at a different time, though.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, last year we did the Super Bowl show at 8. I believe we'll probably be around that time this year as well. So,
all right.
I'm waiting to get confirmation from Mark.
Well, there's going to be a brand new prop bet this year that I'm excited to talk about is will Taylor Swift be proposed to by Travis Kelce after the game? The line started so far away, and it's now like minus 200 for the no, which feels a little too easy. It just feels a little too easy. But a lot of fun ones. We love the national anthem bets. There's normally, I like to add in the Puppy Bowl bets because obviously Team Rough or Team Fluff. Come on now. If you don't watch the Puppy Bowl, who even are you? Do you even like dogs? Right. So we'll talk about the Pup Bowl. There's a lot of fun ones that we talk about. I don't really focus a lot on the game, but more so on the fun prop bets of if whoever wins, what color is the Gatorade going to be dumped on? What will Usher's first song be? Which I was right last year about Rihanna's Bitch Better Have My Money. And I have my bets for what I think Usher's song is going to be, but I have not seen the list that has come out on the betting sheet yet. But I have my song that I think it is, and I think it'd be banger to start off with. But we'll do that next week with Mark Drumheller, and hopefully Ryan Weiss will stop being a bitch and get off his bed because he's old. No. Ryan will hopefully be back with us next week. For Josh, Ryan, myself, you can follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. Always remember, defense wins championships. Offense wins fantasy football. We will see you next week.